Second question comes from us about Evan Bouchard in the Edmonton Oilers. I was wondering, what do you think Evan Bouchard's contract is going to be after his 2-year, $3.9 million one is up? Also, what do you think they will need to do to clear money for Draisaitl, McDavid, in order to re-sign all three? From Charlie Allen. It's a very good question. The Edmonton Oilers obviously re-signed Evan Bouchard to a 2-year, $3.9 million contract. I really like the value that they're going to get over the next 2 years with Bouchard on that contract. At this point, $3.9 million is like low-end second pair money, arguably like high-end third pair. Justin Holl got like $3.3 million. So when you look at that, ideally in my perfect world, they would have signed Bouchard to a longer-term contract, but if it was going to be 5-6 years, you would have had to give him somewhere between probably $6 to $7 million. So looking at Bouchard, I think he's going to be fantastic on this deal. You look at him over the end of the season, last 19 regular season games, he puts up 19 points in 19 games. And then in the playoffs, 17 points in 12 games. So he put up 36 points. He put up 36 points in 31 games. I don't think he's going to do that next season. That's Erik Karlsson, 95-plus point pace. But can he be a reliable 65 to 70 point guy? I think that's more than reasonable on that power play. The power play is definitely going to slow down a little bit. It's not going to be like the greatest ever or in the playoffs when it was like 44%. It's going to come back down to earth. But Tyson Barrie was putting up near 60. I think he put up like 65 points in his prime on that Oilers power play. So I think you look at Evan Bouchard, let's go to the advanced stats. He's great in terms of even strength offense, very good power play, and defensively, he was a total liability last year. I'm not going to act like he was at all serviceable. He was like Quinn Hughes in his rookie year. But this year, he did take a pretty positive step. He's not a lockdown defensive defenseman by any stretch, but he went from a liability to being below average. He's not going to make an egregious mistake. He's not going to take a horrible penalty. He's just going to be okay. And when you get 65 to 70 points and you're okay defensively, that is an elite top pair power play quarterback. That is going to be worth $7 to $8 million once his contract comes up. If he stacks back-to-back 65 to 70 point seasons with solid defensive metrics, and he's 25 years old in his prime, the Oilers are going to have to pay him, which is why you look at the Oilers' salary cap situation, talking about how they're going to afford all of them. It's getting pretty dicey for the Oilers. They definitely have some horrible contracts, Jack Campbell, Darnell Nurse, but they have some really good ones, like a Leon Draisaitl, like a Connor McDavid, like a Bouchard, like a Hyman, like a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So I think their window for the next their window is the next 2 years in terms of them being an elite top-end cup contender, because you have Draisaitl 2 more years at $8.5 million. He's worth $13.5 if the Matthews contract, probably $14. McDavid, 3 more years at $12.5. He could ask for whatever the max is, like $16.5, and the Oilers would have to give it to him. And Bouchard, 2 years, $3.9 million. He's probably going to be worth $6.5 to $7 million the next 2 years. R&H and Hyman are only making $5 million. You look at them, they're 30 and 31 years old. So although they do have a lot more term left on their deal, they're going to be severe surplus value for the next 2 years. After that, we really don't know. They might start regressing hard. So this Oilers core is all in for the next 2 years, because once Bouchard, Draisaitl need those extensions, they're still going to be a playoff team. Don't get me wrong. As long as they have 97 and 29, they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be very good. But in terms of high-level contention, getting basically your top 5 players, Bouchard, Draisaitl, McDavid, Ekholm, whatever, top 6 players. I guess Darnell Nurse is probably a top 6 player, but he's not surplus value. Their top 6 players for the next 2 years are going to be well above their contract value. So you need to be going balls to the wall, because after that, you're going to have to pay some of those guys, or some of those guys are going to start getting older. So it is fully go time for the Edmonton Oilers. As to how they're going to re-sign Bouchard, Draisaitl, and McDavid, I think the number one guy in the chopping block, I'm not breaking any news. First off, you're not trading Darnell Nurse because he has 7 years left at $9.25 million. No one is coming close to touching that contract. He's not worth it now. He's not going to be worth any rebuilding teams 7 years. They're not taking a 7-year deal on. But the clear candidate is Jack Campbell, making $5 million, 4 years left. They'd probably have to trade him the summer in 2 years when Draisaitl and Bouchard are up. He's making $5 million, which if he bounces back, that's a decent value. But with Stuart Skinner only making $2.6 million the next 3 years, you're going to give those reins over to Stuart Skinner, and you're going to need the salary cap to fill out your team. So you're going to get rid of Jack Campbell basically regardless, unless he's playing. We saw with Omar, he won the Vezina. People want him traded on the trade block. So, and he also only makes $5 million. So as long as he doesn't become an amazing goalie again, even if he's a serviceable starter, which the Oilers badly need, he's going to get traded in 2 years, just as a cap casualty. That goes without saying. And the other thing, you might be saying maybe that's not enough in order to re-sign the two of them. The salary cap's going up. I feel like not enough people are talking about this or acting like we are still in a flat cap system. You look at it, this year it rose $1 million to $83.5 million. Then it's going to go up around $4 million. Then it's going to go up another $4 million. So this is not 2019, 2020 when Austin Matthews, Nylander, Marner all signed their big deals, and then it was like, oh, salary cap, COVID happens, the salary cap is flat for the next 4 years. They're screwed because some of their other players want raises, but that salary cap isn't rising. They're going to get $4 million a year naturally just through the salary cap rising. That's going to be able to help afford the $5 million Draisaitl raise, the $4 million Bouchard raise if he really pops, the $3 million McDavid rise if he's McDavid for the next 3 years. But I think people are kind of overreacting on how it's not going to be like an extremely cap tight situation. They're just going to have to dump some of their bad contracts like a Jack Campbell, which when he has 2 years is not going to be the end of the world. But yeah, the Edmonton Oilers over the next 2 years better be all in. They're going to be able to re-sign Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard. I have no doubts. Those are McDavid and Draisaitl, obviously. I think if Bouchard pops, those are going to be three guys that you can't find as in free agency. And if you trade for people, you can maybe find an Evan Bouchard, but then you have to give up a shit ton of assets for a 25-year-old 60-point defenseman. So they're going to get those deals done. But in the next 2 years, they better be balls to the wall because some of their older players are getting up there in age. And then obviously the big two, as well as Bouchard, are going to need new contracts.